Episode 7 of the Kidderminster Harriers fans podcast, and we've got a two-parter tonight. So we got episode 7A, episode 7B. It's great that we're joined by usuals, I'd say, Matt and Nick. Hello, guys. Travis
Hello.
has joined us again, obviously bored of playing his Call of Duty, which is brilliant. Thank you, Travis. And John Smith, what a hunk with his ACDC in the background. Hello, John.
Evening, guys.
Yeah, he's so happy. This week in Harriers, it's been more about who's left and where they've gone and who we couldn't get rather than us bringing any more. I don't think we brought anyone in this week, did we at all, or did we?
No, no.
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 So I want to talk about Zach Brown. No one, I don't think anyone could put their hand on their heart and say Zach Brown would be in the league above in the I'm going to call it Vauxhall Conference now. I didn't think anyone would say he was in the Vauxhall Conference and he'd do that and go to Brackley. So, John Smith, thoughts on Zach Brown
Well,
dodging a bullet?
first of all, I'll just correct you because Jamie Willits, who played with him at Alva Church, said that he thought he'd play Football League, and he still thinks he'll be League One, League Two. He's wrong, but never mind. No, I think Zach Brown steadily improved during his time with us, but it was a long time. And you'd expect that. You'd expect a player of that age who's been given that much game time with some very experienced players to improve.
Yeah.
And he showed flashes of, it's certainly not flashes of brilliance, but flashes of being able to put his run into good use and makes real inroads when he did have possession. Unfortunately, the two things that he did the most of was get caught in possession and run without purpose. I didn't feel like he ever put the kind of pressure on the opposition that you would want. I don't think he ever committed fully in the tackle. In fact, I think up until the later games, he pulled out more than he went into. That's what she said.
I knew that was coming. Yeah.
But
okay, John. Thank you, John. Listen, we'll leave it there. Leave it there because we've only got 8 minutes and now we've got 6. So, Nick, your thought. You love Zach Brown, Nick. So, what's your thoughts on what John just said?
14 assists, 14 goal contributions last season. I'd suggest that's purposeful from a midfielder at any level. Could he have done more in terms of goal scoring? I think probably he could have. That moment against Southport kind of stood out in maybe the first 15, 20 minutes. Him and a couple of others had sort of half chances that on another day, a bit more quality and composure would have been good. But I think he gets a lot of stick because of sort of the way he looks with the socks around the ankles, quite skinny legs. He never really has that sort of non-league look of a footballer. Whereas I think if he was in maybe a different team in a different style of football, you'd maybe be appreciated a little bit more than perhaps he has been by the Harriers fans. But he was, regardless of his size and scale and his stature, he didn't really miss a game. He was always fit. He always played. And he always wanted to get on the ball. He didn't always get it in areas where sometimes I thought he might be able to do damage in between those pockets. So I still think that his best position potentially is a 10 role, not an actual central midfielder. I feel he plays there because he's fit and he can run. So managers play him in that position because of his stats. But I actually think he'd be better suited to a 10 role where he might be able to get a bit more time on the ball and therefore less involved in some robust tackles, which obviously isn't his game.
Thank you, Nick. Matt, you said in a previous podcast that you become a fan of Zach Brown. And so what are your thoughts now he's left and done the dirty on us and gone to Brackley? I would call that the dirty, by the way. So, yeah.
No, well, if you're getting offered a decent deal to play high level, you're going to take it, aren't you? I did become a bit of a fan of him. I thought that since Christmas, I think he had a good run of games. There's a couple of bad ones in there, but everyone has that. But I thought he was mainly consistent during that period. But a couple of years before that, I was always one of those, a bit like Smudger, really, probably scratching your head on how he was getting a game each week. Used to infuriate me how he used to pull out of tackles. He wasn't physical enough. But there were some good aspects to his game. He has improved a lot. I think he's a very good, at this moment in time, a very good National League North player. In terms of Brackley beating us to deals, I think that's going to bite them on the backside. They're in the same shop as us. We're shopping the likes of Waldron, Morrison, Brown, good National League North players. They're in that shop as well. That's not going to keep them up next season. So good luck to him is all I can say. And good luck to Zach. I'll be interested to see how he does next season at a higher level. Obviously partnering up with Shane Byrne again potentially next season if that's the plan for them. But I think he's one of those. It's a shame he's gone, but it's like Morrison. That was a bit more of a gutting one. But you look at the players who've come in: Tunnicliffe, ex-Football League player, very good player. Clark's coming in. Murray rates very, very, very highly. He could turn out to be better than Zach Brown. So it's not as if we're losing good players. The budget's been completely slashed, and we're getting some randoms out of nowhere, or some lads who aren't good enough anymore that are just trying to get anywhere really that we've seen in the past. So good luck to him. But I'm not. Yeah, I liked him, but I'm not gutted if that makes sense, because I think you've made good moves on it.
I think we'll miss his hair, if anything else. Travis, what was your issue with Zach Brown? Is there an issue with you and Zach Brown?
No, I've always been a Zach Brown fan since he's come in, really. I think he's one of them players which every team squad needs. He's a workhorse, he's always fit. And he has got the quality, because we've seen it in like Hereford away, the goal. I think it was Oxford or Radcliffe at home. He done a little flick, assist to Hemmings, and I was like, he's got the quality and he shows it, but not enough. I think he could do a lot better. And I do think he will go on to play League Two. I really do. I think he's got it in him.
Yeah.
But like
Matt
said,
he's getting more in those leagues. We have more time on the ball.
More time on the ball, exactly. Yeah, he's not a tackle. I think he's more of a 10 than an 8. I would say, to be honest with you. It's not a massive loss. I do agree with that, but I do think people who don't rate him will realise he's lost next season. I do think that. I know Clark, because let's say Clark doesn't hit the ground running, people's going to realise how much Zach Brown brought to the team, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I've got 2 points on Zach Brown. The first point is he would frustrate me after games more than any other player that we had. Absolutely frustrate me. I remember I'd have conversations with the people behind me about how I didn't rate him at all and how I thought he could do more. The reason that was because I thought he could do more, but he just wasn't showing it week in, week out, which annoyed me. And the second point I want to make is we'll only know if it's the right decision for Zach Brown at the end of next season. That's all I'll say, really. Maybe he'll go up into the league. I don't know. Maybe the Brackley will do it. They're signing everyone right now, so that'll be fun. So Matt, you mentioned Danny Waldron then. Another player that we've lost to another team just happened to be Brackley again. Thoughts on that?
It's another striker we've missed out on. I don't know how many strikers we've missed out on over the last few years. I'd have been happy to see him come here, because he had he scored regular at Rushall, struggling in the league above.
Yeah.
As I've said before, I think Brackley are in the same shop as us. They should be at a Waitrose when we're at a Tesco sort of thing. But I imagine Murray's not a soft bloke. You can tell the way he comes across the interviews and his intricate planning that he says he'll have a list of 4 or 5 players there. So Waldron will be there. He'll have B, C, D. He'll go to them, find they haven't been snapped up already. So I'm hoping that he's got someone else lined up. Whether that's Alexander, I don't know. It was Eastbourne with him, or whether it's someone else that we don't know of who's available. They might even look further down the pyramid. Who knows? But a shame. But I'm hoping he'll have a few other targets lined up. They can finally get over the line, because that's an area we need assistance in. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, very much so. Do we know if Harriers actually were in for Waldron? I know we did with Russ Penn when he was in charge, but John, have you heard on the grapevine? You hear quite a few things on the grapevine.
I don't think we made him an offer. From what I've heard, I think obviously the situation is quite often the case that clubs know when other clubs are in for players, and they're not going to get caught in a bidding war, or in this case in a wages war. I think we're right not to do that. Previously we've lost out on strikers. I know we lost out on Danny Elliott, who wanted silly money off us. But we were second top scorers last season, goals from all over the park. It's
the top scorers.
Yeah, we were the top scorers.
You take Hemmings out of that, though. How good are we? I think we're a bit over-reliant on him, personally.
Mm-hmm. We're okay.
That was the thing last season. We scored goals from all over the field. Obviously Hemmings was the massive contributor to that. And without him, you're absolutely spot on. We would have been, I think, we'd have been sort of saying the same thing as we said in the National League and the season before when we actually got promoted around the sort of chance to goal conversion rate. But Hemmings kind of helped us with that. But we did, I think Maz got 10 or 11 goals and a couple more from midfield as well. So it was a little bit spread around. But I think there's a stat, something like Amari didn't score from outfield play outside of a game against, help me out here, who was the team that Farsley? Yeah, he didn't score. He didn't score. I think he barely scored a goal, if at all, after Farsley from open play. So it's clearly abundant. We need to get a striker, but God knows how many we've been through and tried to get, and sometimes it's hard to go back when you've lost that once.
Right, listen, we're gonna end it there about striker talks. We did it all last week, and we're still no closer to. But I reckon Adam Murray's I reckon he knows what he's doing, which is great. Now, the whole point of doing this episode tonight, I said in the last one, was I wanted to hear people's best Harriers 11. Because I thought that'd be really fun and a trip down memory lane. So, if you'd like to just close your eyes and think about memory lane and that trip we're going to go down, that would be lovely. And hopefully you can all see my screen now, and you can see this. Can you see this? Can you see this side?
Yeah.
Everyone's got it. Yep. And right. Okay. So what I'm going to do is give everyone 5 minutes. If they want to talk about the players and stuff. If you don't have to talk for 5 minutes. You don't have to do that. It'd be a bit annoying if you did. It didn't, but yeah, that's fine. Right. So, Travis, your 5 minutes go now.
Yeah, so obviously I've not been going as long as some of you because of my age. So I try to mix it up with players we've seen when I first started going and recently. So for Danny Lewis in goal was one of the only quite easy really. It was either him, Dibble, or I thought Simpson done well in them that 12 months when he was here. Dunkley and Badger Army speaks for itself. Badger Army is probably the best ball playing defender I've seen at the club since I've been following Harriers. So Dunkley he'd head kick anything, wouldn't he? He was brilliant. And look what he's done since he's left Kiddie. Lee Vaughan, tenacious. He goes up and down. Even his second spot at the club when he was a bit older, he was still quality. Left back, I did struggle with, to be fair. I couldn't think of many. So you got I went for Richards, Mr. Consistent. The only other one was Francis Angao, whatever, who went to Fylde. He was the only one who sprung to mind, really. He was over the last few years who's been a standout left back. Crowsdale, brilliant player, one of the best. He just read the game so well. He's footballing brain, one of the best I've seen. I know he's just won League Two at Port Vale, I think, last season. Who else have we got? Sam Austin. When I first started coming, he was never in the squad. He's playing left back, right back, just coming on last 20 minutes. And then 12, 18 months when he was just probably the best player in the league. Phenomenal. I always remember him for the Reading goal, the volley against Hereford at home. Just class, wasn't he, really? Engwatala, he wasn't there long, was he, really? But I thought his technical ability was just amazing. Because it was Ganua, which was one of them. I just didn't put in, but he sprung to mind, and he's been funny. Hemmings, I was stuck between him and Marvin Johnson, but I thought Marvin Johnson, he had a good season really with us. He's done well since us, but he had a good season, and he's gone and done well since then. But I thought Hemmings has done more for us in his spell than Johnson did. Lolly, he'll always be remembered for that goal against Peterborough, sending us to Sunderland. So he's even scored in the Premier League, didn't he, Huddersfield? So then at the front, it was between Ironside, Gash. I didn't want to give Smith a shout really because he's been a legend and what he's done for us, and I did go for Ironside. It was close, but I thought he was the better goal scorer. But I've seen my time, and he's gone on to play higher and deservedly so. So yeah, that's my team. Quite recent players, in all honesty, but there's a few I missed out on. But yeah, I don't think it's too bad. I think it'd do all right this season if we had that team this season coming up.
Wow. Right, we've got 2 minutes left of Travis's 5 minutes. So if anyone's got any questions, please ask them. We've got 2 minutes.
It's an interesting one. There's a couple of players in there that I thought of for mine, so even that didn't make mine, but even though I've been going for a lot longer than yourself, Travis, there are some players in there that are. I mean, I loved Elton I loved
Mhm.
watching Elton on his day. He was worth the entrance fee on his own.
Yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah.
unbelievable
He
player
was
to
just
watch.
effortless when he played.
Oh God, he
He
was
seemed to
so
like he was
good.
trying.
Yeah, and it was that era where at times we just blew. He was part of that team that just could blow teams away. I grew up by playing like passing football
Yeah.
and tricks and skills, and it was
Mhm.
just awesome. That team
Didn't
was,
we?
and he was a great
He,
player.
didn't he leave or didn't he get injured and we signed him again? Am I making that
He,
up?
he went from us to Chester, I think, and then he sort of got into like obscurity. Really, I think
Yeah,
maybe
I
went
don't
to the
think he
Scottish
plays
division.
anymore. I
I
think
know,
he's back in
such a
France now, I
shame.
think. Mm.
Yeah, such a shame. We
I was
closed
close to
out
putting
what
Gnu
six.
in as well. Gnu, because I know
Mm.
that goal against Chorley in the playoffs,
Surely,
we brought
yeah,
it down on the turn. But yeah, I was
amazing.
close to putting in. I thought it was a bit of a underrated one. Was James McQuilkin. I thought he was
Yeah, yeah.
class,
Good player as
but
well. Yeah.
I didn't know we'd
Wonderful
put him
left
in
foot.
over. So yeah,
Yeah. I was a great team. Great team. Well
Yeah,
done.
nice
Thank you,
one. Well
Travis.
done.
Appreciate that one, buddy. Appreciate that
cheers,
one.
thank you.
Right, who should go to next? Who would like to go next? Um, Jonathan Smith.
Go for it.
Are you ready? Where do you want to start from the bottom?
We'll start from the bottom. Probably one that would shock people, I'd imagine. Gone for Dibble in goal. I think that he's very, very unappreciated in his time, much like Vincent van Gogh between the sticks. His stats speak for themselves. I mean, this is the best ever season in terms of clean sheets for a Kidderminster Harriers goalkeeper. And if we're going to judge strikers on their goals, we've got to judge keepers on their clean sheets. I think he's been incredible, and I can't remember a keeper in all my years watching the Harriers that has done as much to see games out for us, game management, the way that he's very, very clever in terms of his distribution, holding on to the ball. The little look over to the bench and go down with cramp every other week. I think we really underestimate what that brings.
Oh no. Defense, please.
Oh well, I mean some of these names should speak for themselves, really.
Not for Travis though, John. Not for Travis.
So we're going back to the early 90s here, Travis. Sorry. So Chris Brindley for me, best centre half that's ever played at that level. He won everything on the ground, in the air, and the speed at which he would then distribute the ball was just incredible. He probably moved about within a 20-yard radius for the entire game, but it's absolutely fantastic player. You can't have Brindley without Weir. They were like Ant and Dec, weren't they?
True.
And they were. They just worked so well together, having each other's back. They knew where they were at all times. Just fantastic. And Craig Hinton obviously went on to bigger things after us, but I thought he was again a fantastic footballing defender. I think he's going to be the one that's going to be played out from the back of the three there.
Right, you got halfway through your 5 minutes, John.
There's going to be a lot of possession in this midfield. Let's face it. Marsh, Webb, and Fozzie. Yeah. Fozzie's going to be the one who's playing the ball out of those three, picking up the runs of Lolly and Marvin Johnson. But three fantastic midfielders who just knew how to, like Travis said about Crowsdale, knew how to read a game, knew how to control a game, and keep possession of a football. Johnson and Lolly, both incredible wingers who are just capable of magic at any time. When they got the ball, you thought anything could happen, and they would often look like they were running to nowhere and then cut inside and deliver something that would just be absolutely insane. And yeah, Joe Lolly for that Peterborough game, he's got to go in for that alone. And Marvin Johnson, or Prince Tekers MJ, as he likes to be known, I think one of the most naturally talented players I've ever seen at Agborough. I don't think he's ever, even the level he's reached, I don't think he's ever reached quite what he could have done. I don't think he was as dedicated a professional as he could have been, unfortunately. And then, like, you know, Kim Casey, 73 goals in a season. That's it. We don't need to say more than that. And his work rate was just unbelievable. He would chase everything. He was like a dog down Spennels Park. And Hughesy, you know, controversial figure. I'm not going to get into that, but he was a striker that you just, as you know, sort of growing up watching him, a striker as a kid, he was just wonderful to watch. Someone that could pick a ball up 30, 40 yards out, run with it and strike it from either side of the box, and you knew it was going top corner. And his positional sense was second to none. There's a lot more that could have gone in that team, but I think, that's my all-time 11.
There you go. Thank you, John. It's saying we're running out of time. Oh my goodness me, that ain't going to make any sense at all. Right. We're down to 3 minutes now, guys. 3 minutes. Okay. So let's go over to, I believe this is Matt. Is that your team, Matt?
Yeah, I think so. We have to zoom in a bit.
You don't zoom in, Ronnie.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So gone for Danny Lewis in goal. I think he was very, very consistent over the time he was with us in the Burr years. Never really remember a mistake he made. I agree with John. I think Dibble was up there. I was swaying between Dibble and Lewis, actually. I think Dibble is underappreciated. I started following since '96, so right back Marcus Bignett, even as a 10-year-old back then, you could see how class he was. Yeah. He obviously went on into the EFL with Crewe and other clubs. I think QPR was another. Sadly, came back to Agborough playing for Russian and Diamonds, but we won't get into that. We'll forgive him. He'll overlap. He can defend. His crossing, taking players on. Left back Scott Stamps. This one I struggled with a bit because we've had obviously Mickey Demetriou and Caleb Richards, but I thought Stamps had a bit more consistency. He was part of the best team, in my opinion, I've ever saw at Harriers, which was that Molby team that in the second season in the Football League, which we could have made playoffs, shall we say. Back two, centre back two. So Che Dunkley, absolutely colossal guy, could play, head it, kick it, nothing got past him. Obviously had a good career in the Football League as well and is still there. Hinton started as a right back for us, converted to centre half by Molby, one of the best decisions he made, in my opinion. Could have gone higher, if I'm honest, and he could have done if Lon Newton had accepted his Wigan Athletics bid for him. But it was a phenomenal defender, Hinton. I think he was a bit ahead of his time as well with how much of a footballer he was playing up from the back. Wingers, I've gone for Dean Bennett. He could frustrate at times, Bennett, with his final ball and end products, but when he was on it, imagine being a full-back trying to mark him. It'd be an absolute nightmare. And him and Lonnie were edge of the seats players, really. So I've gone with Bennett because, again, he was part of the title-winning team like Stamps. He was a key part of that the team, the Football League as well. Lolly is probably the best player I've seen at the club in terms of talent. Real edge of the seat player. We've seen a lot of decent wingers. Johnson could have gone in there, Skoberg, Hemo as well. But I've gone for Lolly with us for a short amount of time, but he was absolutely unbelievable. I'm not surprised he's had a good career in the Football League. Midfielder Marsh, I don't really need to say anything else about Mike Marsh in terms of the best influential player I've ever seen. I don't think we would have won the conference without him.
No.
I think he was absolutely unbelievable. And it'd been interesting to see how we would have done in the Football League with him, really. But that wasn't to be. I struggled with his partner. There was Russ Penn, I was considering Danny Williams, but I've gone with Sam Austin because I thought Austin, particularly in that FA Cup season when he was converted into a 10, which is, I think, one of Penn's best decisions. I think it was absolutely unbelievable. Travis touched on some of the goals he scored. The goal, I remember the one away at Gloucester where he just took the ball in their half, just completely sprinted round everyone, round the goalkeeper and tucked it home. But he was a really influential, very good player. Love to see him back. I don't think it's going to happen this summer.
1 minute, Matt. 1 minute, sorry.
Okay. Up front, Henriksen, most elegant player I've ever seen up front. Used to get some very rough treatment. A Mirage regular, but he scored some brilliant goals. The Leighton Orient chip, for example, and Lee Hughes. I echo what John said. Really, very clever player, quick, strong. knew where the net was, and obviously he went to have a decent career in the Football League as well. So that's my 11.
Thank you, Matt. Right, let's move on to Nick. Nick, you got 4 minutes, my friend.
Yeah, so I'll put Dibble and Lewis in a little bit
Can't
for
do
like
that.
what John for now, as Dibble's the sub on this one. But I wanted to give him an honorary mention for the same reasons Jono mentioned around the stats, the data. Even last season when I was going to say, Danny Lewis pips it for me because I feel it was kind of at a better level. We were going towards the Football League at the time, and he was involved at the top end of that division, whereas I suppose Dibble was more involved at the bottom. So there's a case to be made for both of them, which is why I kind of put Dibble as the bench player, just because I think Danny Lewis may be a little bit more consistent at the time, but obviously times have changed, and what you expect from a goalkeeper now is slightly different. So that's the nuanced reason I put them both in there. Scott Stamps, left back, Lever and right back. I think no winger would want to play against either of those two. It'd be an absolute physical warfare against those two. Both of them got big, strong, powerful tackles in there, and a little bit ahead of their time. If you think about when the era of when those guys were in their prime, it wasn't as much of a fullback box to box down the wings like it is now. Hinton, I went for similar reasons to the other lads, really. Just an absolute Rolls Royce, 8 out of 10 every week, no matter what he was up against, whether he was up against small, fast strikers or big, tall, powerful, old fashioned conference centre forwards. He was just absolutely top class. And there could have been 1,000,001 players alongside him. The reason I went with Badger Army was purely because at times it looked like we had a championship player playing in National League North. So just for that, the optics of seeing that at that level at times was just brilliant and worth the entrance fee. I didn't see some of the lads Jono saw, but they are also legends from what I hear. But I've gone for the sort of Rolls Royces, if you want, at the back. And then their midfield again, I've gone with Mike Marsh just sort of sitting in, holding, keeping possession. And then you can see my team's full of flair, really. Certainly in that midfield. So Dean Bennett as a kid, my favourite player. Loved him, full of energy, fast. Again, felt like he barely missed games for us in the times I was watching. Was able to go from the conference and into the Football League and still be a top player for us. So consistent and did it at multiple levels, and just a great player to watch. Really enjoyed him. Richie Appleby, he's one of the ones that hasn't been mentioned, but another player that I just enjoyed watching. Technician, creativity, something about him, bit of a swagger. Just loved watching him play, and had some amazing moments against Rushden away that stick in the memory. Joe Lolly, for me, best player I've seen at the Harriers. I think he was number one on the team sheet for me, really. Just, I know he was here for a short spell, but just the whole story, the way he played, he was raw, he was fast. You knew what he was going to try and do, but you couldn't stop him. Wand of a left foot, just amazing player. Bo Henriksen, for the reasons mentioned by some of the other lads that have picked him, just an unbelievable footballer. And at times, he was levels above the level he was playing at for us, and you could see that. And then Fozzie, I know no one else has picked him, but top scorer that season we got promoted, which was my first full season as a season ticket holder. So very fond memories. Another one that also scored important goals for us when we did get promoted. I looked at other players in there. I had Malbon in there at one point, another player I really enjoyed watching. But I just think for his goals, top scorer in the conference that season, not just our top scorer that season, I had to put Fozzie in, and that's my 11.
Thank you so much, Nick. Right, so we haven't got enough time for my 11, at least 20 minutes. So right, so what we'll do, that's part one. I really hope you enjoyed it, because part two is on the way shortly. All you've got to do is click and you'll see part two, and that'll be amazing. And we'll all be here unless Travis has fallen asleep. So there you go. No, Travis is still awake. He's still with us. Right, okay. Brilliant stuff. Right, part two on the way. Just click on it.